Tiberius Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, or commonly referred to as Claudius, was the fourth Roman emperor. We'll be going over each aureus minted under him today. There are 37 unique RICs, or Roman imperial coins, for Claudius that I could find sales data for. The ones that I could find no data for are RIC 23, 35, 42, 50, and 55. So I'm just going to assume those would probably sell for a decent bit more than their actual gold value. Starting off with our most common Claudius aureus is RIC 80. Bear with me as I search through everything here, but just a reminder, I have updated the way that I'm going to be doing this. That way I don't need to flip through a whole bunch of things. But this is RIC 80. It has a range of sales of 5.1 to 162 times the price of gold. The low was sold by Classical Numismatic Group on January 23rd, 2008. It was auction 180, lot 162, and sold for $900 US. The high was also sold by Classical Numismatic Group on September 24th, 2003, auction 64, lot 983, and sold for $13,000 US. So if we look at the overall trend here, so really the first good year where I have a lot of data is 2012. So we see, 48.5 times the value of gold. And over time, we see what seems to be a slight decrease, with 2023 being, all the way down to 29x. It's not the lowest year, but it seems like it's overall maybe a little bit of a downward trend. And of course, being the most common coin, there are 20 different auctioneers that sold this coin. So fairly available, at least for a Claudius aureus. The high end of that is HD Rauch at 78.5 times the price of gold, with the low end being Sontag at 8.13, Pegasi, Coin Cabinet, Rhineland Aurei, all down there. So if you're looking to buy a low-end coin, you're likely going to be in the range of $5,000 to $9,000 US, with a high end probably going to be $45,000 to $70,000 US. Our second most common coin is RIC 65. It has 5.6% of all sales. We'll pull up RIC 65 here. So RIC 65 had a range of 7.1 all the way up to 230.6 times the price of gold for an individual sale. The high was sold on January 10th, 2006 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auctioned Triton 9, lot 1386, and sold for $26,000 US. The low was sold on May 20th, 2013 by Bertolami. It was auction 7, lot 519, and sold for 1,600 euros. Looking at this overall trend, mainly focusing in on 2012 and on, there doesn't really seem to be much to pick up on here. If anything, seems fairly flat, with our low year actually being 2013, only 7 times the price of gold for an average sale there. If we break it down by auctioneer, we'll see that our highest seller is Roma at 102 times the price of gold is their average, and our bottom end being Bertolami. I believe that might have been their singular sale as well. So second is Gornia Mosh at 8.72 times the price of gold. So, low-end coin, we're probably thinking about $5,000 to $10,000 US is where the next one will roughly sell for. And high-end coin, it's going to be much more like, we'll say $50,000 to $130,000 US. So, obviously, a little bit rarer than our previous coin, and the sales prices definitely show that. Our third most common coin is RIC 76, which accounts for 5.5% of all sales. So we'll go ahead and pull that one up. So RIC 76 had a range of sales of 2.4 all the way to 176.5 times the price of gold. The high was sold on May 18th, 1999 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 15, lot 305, and sold for 15,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on January 23rd, 2008 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auction 180, lot 172, and sold for 425 US dollars. This coin, to me, looks like it may have a little bit of a downward trend, at least since 2014. As you can see here, 2014 was our relative peak, or local peak rather, 49 times the price of gold, and then we drop all the way down to 2020 all the way through 2023 being in between 10 or 9.5 and 18 times the price of gold. So obviously dropped off a little bit here. Also, you can see the average USD valuation for this coin year over year as well. So you can take a look at that if that's something that you find more valuable than comparing it to gold. So if we compare by auctioneer, we see that Numismatic Ars Classica was the highest average seller. Their average coin went for 58.6 times the price of gold, and our lowest was Noble Numismatic. Their average book to market was 8.14 times the price of gold. So our low coin next to sell is probably going to be around 2,000 to 6,500 US dollars, and next high-end coin is probably going to be 35,000 to 105,000 US dollars. So pretty big range on this one compared to the other one. So you can get one fairly cheap, or you can get a really, really nice one sold by Numismatic Ars Classica for a hefty price. Next coin up, RIC 73 with 5.4% of all sales. So RIC 73 had a range of sales from 6.7 all the way to 235.7 times the price of gold. The high sale was on May 20th, 2015 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 84, lot 908, and sold for 55,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on December 7th, 2023 by HD Rauch. It was auction 117, lot 684, and sold for 2,600 euros. RIC 73 also seems to have this obvious downward trend. Obviously, it doesn't have as much sales, so we literally have no data for 2014. But from 2013 on, quite a bit lower. We saw a little bit of a pickup last year, obviously with up to 43. But overall, definitely downward. 2015 was our local peak, I would say. Actually, probably most likely our normal peak if I had all the data going back. So looking at it by auctioneer, our highest average auctioneer is once again Numismatic Ars Classica at 120.57 times the price of gold. And our low is Galerie, which is 14.8 times the price of gold, followed by Notch Folder, Numismatic Namen at 20.6. So our next low coin is probably going to sell somewhere from 5,000 to 15,000 US dollars, a little bit bigger range on that one. And then the next high-end coin is probably going to be 70,000 all the way up to potentially 140,000 US dollars, depending upon where you're buying. Next coin up we have is RIC 38. RIC 38 accounted for 5.2% of all sales. So RIC 38 had a range of 4 to 249.4 times the price of gold. The high was sold on October 26, 2020. The high was sold on October 26, 2005, rather, by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 31, lot 22, and sold for 31,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on October 30th, 2019, by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auction 455, lot 273, and sold for 1,200 US dollars. RIC, I'm not even going to attempt to really point out a trend here. We have some high lows, or rather some high highs and low lows here. You know, we have really low values such as 4 for a year, or 7 for a year, all the way up to 81 and 58. So it's kind of all over the place with this coin. I'm sure if I broke it down and was able to look by what auctioneer sold more for what years, you probably got Numismatic Ars Classica and Triton auctions in these years that are selling this coin, and the other years maybe not so much. So looking at it by auctioneer, Numismatic Ars Classica at the top once again with a 101.56 times the price of gold, followed by Stax Bowers, and then Classical Numismatic Group. And at the bottom we have Leo Numismatic at 7.9 and HG Rauch at 8.1 times the price of gold. So our next low sale probably going to be around 5,500 to 11,000 US dollars, with a higher end coin likely ranging 35,000 to 105,000 US dollars. Next coin up is RIC 25 with 4.8% of all sales. So RIC 25 had a range of sales of 4 all the way up to 246.4 times the price of gold. The high sale was on May 8th, 2024 by Heritage. It was auction 3,115, lot 31,054, and sold for 105,000 US dollars. The low sale was on January 23rd, 2008 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auction 180, lot 157, and sold for 720 US dollars. Once again, I'm going to say this coin doesn't really have an obvious trend to me. If you're looking 2025 and on, I would say it's downward, but then you look at 2024, probably likely just because of the high sale by Heritage, it's saw a big jump compared to the other years. So if we break it down by auctioneer, our highest average seller is HG Rauch with 100.7 times the price of gold, followed by Numismatic Ars Classica at 88.4. And all the way at the bottom, we have once again Leo Numismatic. And then we have Stax Bowers joining them at about 18 and Aurei at 19.2. So our next lower end sale, probably going to range 7,000 to 14,000 US dollars, with the next higher end being 55,000 to 110,000 US dollars. Next coin up, RIC 27, accounting for 4.7% of all sales as well. So, RIC 27 had a range of sales of 5.3 to 146.3 times the price of gold. The high was sold on August 13th, 2015 by Heritage. It was auctioned 3,041, lot 32,067, and sold for 34,000 US dollars. The low was sold on January 6, 2013, also by Heritage. It was auctioned 3,021, lot 21,356, and sold for 1,750 US dollars. RIC 27's just its data is just a total mess. We have I love how there's a giant jump here, just on mostly on how much data I can get. One sale in 1989 and the next in 2002. So that tells you how sparse it is in that time region. But we go out to 2014 and beyond, and yeah, there's not much to glean off of this. Kind of just a chaotic graph there. I would also bear in mind, with all this data, I am taking into account auction fees. So most of these you're going to see are 20% or so above what the actual hammer price says. So, for instance, Heritage high sale was 34,000 US dollars. It's probably going to be 1.2 times 34,000 in terms of US dollars. So breaking out by auctioneer, once again, Numismatic Ars Classica at the top at 87.85 times the price of gold, followed by Heritage at about 60. And all the way at the bottom is Grun at 10.6 and Cats at 11.2. So, our low sale probably going to be around 5,000 to 10,000 US dollars. And our high sale is probably going to be around 52,000 to 88,000 US dollars. Next coin up we have is RIC 82 with 4.4% of all sales. So RIC 82 had a range of 5.5 to 322.8 times the price of gold. The high was sold on October 8th, 2015 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 86, lot 119, and sold for 72,500 Swiss francs. The low was sold on December 2nd, 2015 by Spink. It was auction 15,007, lot 570, and sold for 800 pounds. The funny part to me is we still have a, if you're comparing 2015 to other data, it definitely looks higher because it had the highest sale, so that makes sense. But it also had the lowest sale, so you kind of balance those out. You thought it might balance those out, but obviously it has the highest. If you're looking at it over time, I think it's fairly obvious this is a downward trend since 2015. I suppose with a large sale there by Numismatic Ars Classica at 322, it's bringing that average up quite a bit. So definitely makes sense why it would drop back down quite a bit after that. If we look at it by auctioneer, no shocker here, Numismatic Ars Classica once again on there at 94.3, followed by HD Rauch at 87, and at the bottom is Spink at 5.53, which was their singular sale, the low. We also have Agora at 7.8. So our next low end coin is probably going to sell 3,500 to 7,000 US dollars, whereas high end we're probably looking 70,000, maybe all the way up to 175,000 US dollars. Next up, we have RIC 69 with 4.3% of all sales. So, RIC 69 had a range of 8.6 to 89.8 times the price of gold. The high sale was on October 17th, 2012 by Numismatic Ars Classica. Shocking. It was auctioned 67, lot 115, and sold for 30,000 Swiss francs. The low sale was on September 19th, 2017 by Bertolami. It was auction 37, lot 476, and sold for 1,700 Great British pounds. Not going to start trying to even look at a trend here. We're getting down to the point where we just don't have near enough data. So for instance, RIC 69, we only have 36 sales over 24 years of data. So we're averaging a little more than one sale a year. So I don't really feel as though I can attempt to make any discernments on that from now on, or that won't really be fruitful. So I'm going to stop doing that. Anyway, looking at it by the average auctioneer sale, as you can tell, we have just about an auctioneer per every single sale, so it seems. But our highest seller is Stax Bowers at 68.9, followed by Numismatic Genvensis at 66.8. And at the bottom, we have Munzen and Munhan Medallion at 10, and Leo Numismatic at 11.43. So our next low-end coin probably going to be around 5,000 to 9,500 US dollars, with the next high probably being around 35,000 to 55,000 US dollars. So this one's a little rarer, but seemingly selling for less. Next coin up we have is RIC 15 with 4.1% of all sales. So RIC 15 had a range of 3.5 to 394.5 times the price of gold. The high was sold on May 18th, 1999 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 15, lot 293, and sold for 34,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on November 8th, 2017 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auction 409, lot 556, and sold for 900 US dollars. So nothing to really look at here with the graph, but I will point out the high sale year was actually not the high average book market year. So that was a little interesting. Next up, looking at it by auctioneer, We have Kunker actually at number 1 at 158.8 times the price of gold, and Numismatic Ars Classica in the top 3 at least. At the bottom, once again, Leo Numismatic 13.7 times, followed by Classical Numismatic at 14.5, and then Roma at 14.7. So our next low-end coin probably going to be around 10,000 to 15,000 US dollars, whereas our next high-end coin is probably going to be around 75 to 150,000 US dollars. Next coin up is RIC40 with 4.1% of all sales, same amount as RIC15. So RIC40 had a range of 4.4 all the way up to 407 times the price of gold. The high sold on December 12th, 2016 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 97, lot 78, and sold for 100,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on May 31st, 2023 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auction 539, lot 625, and sold for 1,800 US dollars. If we break it out by auctioneer, we can see that Numismatic Ars Classica has once again taken the throne at 115.8 times the price of gold, followed by Heritage. And at the bottom, we have, yet again, Leo Numismatic at 11.1, followed by Nachfolger at 14.6 and Bertolami at 19.2. Next low-valued coin is probably going to sell around 10,000 to 16,000 US dollars. Whereas the next high end will probably sell from 55,000 to 100,000 US dollars. Next coin up we have is RIC78 that accounts for 3.7% of all sales. And once again, while I'm doing this, I'll also be showing pictures and all the information about each and every one of these coins. I believe RIC78 includes Nero and Claudius in this coin. So obviously all of these coins usually have some level of distinction. RIC69 I believe had Germanicus, and RIC78 and 82 I think have Nero, and then one in there is Agrippina as well. So all these coins have things that obviously drive these different sales prices, whether it be the obverse or the reverse having a particular portrait, maybe it has a column on the back that someone likes, or a specific Roman pantheon god, but that will be included in all of these while I'm rambling on about things that maybe you don't care as much about. Maybe you don't care about the low or high sale, or and maybe that's a little more interesting to you. But anyway, RSC78 had a range of sales of 2.5 to 168.3 times the market price of gold. The high was sold on October 6th, 2020 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auctioned 119, lot 15, and sold for 60,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on January 23rd, 2008 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auctioned 180, lot 175, and sold for $450 is all. The highest average auctioneer was Numismatic Ars Classica. It was 53.1, so quite a bit lower, honestly, than a lot of these. And the lowest was Grun at 4, and Classical Numismatic Group, huge jump up at 14.4. Next low-end coin for this, probably going to sell around 4,000 to 12,000 US dollars. And next high-end coin is probably going to sell for 35,000 to 105,000 US dollars. And I'd probably lean more towards the lower end, maybe unless you have a giant selling one. So next coin we have is RIC33 with 3.3% of all sales. So RIC33 had a range of sales of 10.9 all the way to 275.4 times the market price of gold. The high was sold on October 8th, 2015 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 86, lot 114, and sold for 62,500 Swiss francs. The low was sold on September 25th, 2024 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auctioned 571, lot 1017, and sold for 4,500 US dollars. So looking at our average auctioneers, we have Numismatic Ars Classica. Their average sale price of 136.4 times the price of gold. Heritage at number 2, and all the way down here is Goldberg at 11.5, Sontag at 12.8. So our next low-end coin probably going to be around 8,000 to 24,000 US dollars. So this one's going to be pricey no matter probably what quality you're buying. And a high end is going to range you 75,000 to 195,000 US dollars. So quite a bit. Next coin up. It's RIC 67, which accounts for 3.3% of all sales. Same number as the one before. So RIC 67 had a range of 3.9 all the way to 158.2 times the market price of gold. The high was sold on November 18th, 2019 by Jen Vences. It was auction 12, lot 127, and sold for 48,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on March 12, 2020 by Gorny and Mosh. It was auction 270, lot 2,457, and sold for 1,100 euros. The highest average auctioneer was Jen Vences at 158.3, which I believe was the high sale anyway. And the low was Nomos at 6.4, Gorny and Mosh at 9.3, and the second place, because they actually had more than one sale, I believe, was Numismatic Ars Classica, 76.5. Low-end coin for this one, probably going to range you 4,000 to 8,000 US dollars, whereas a high-end, if you're getting up into the Numismatic Ars Classicas, those Jen Vences, is probably going to be 75,000 to 110,000 US dollars. Next coin up. It's RIC 71 with 3.2% of all sales. So RIC 71 had a range of 8.3 all the way to 194.7 times the market price of gold. The high was sold on October 20th, 2018 by Palumbo at 185.5. Sorry. The high was sold on October 20th, 2018 by Palumbo. It was auction 17, lot 44, and sold for 50,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on May 20th, 2020 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auction 468, lot 359, and sold for 3,000 US dollars. The highest average auctioneer was Palumbo at 185.8. The lowest average auctioneer was Nachfolger at 9, followed by Rasmussen at 9.2, and I don't know who JMBH was, but it was 12.9, and then Noble at 14.9. So our next low-end coin, probably going to be around 7,000 to 15,000 US dollars, and our next high-end, probably going to be around 75,000 to 150,000 US dollars. Next up is RIC 13 with 3.1% of all sales. RIC 13 had a range of sales from 4 all the way up to 248.7 times the market price of gold. The high was sold on March 24th, 2010 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 54, lot 334, and sold for 60,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on January 13th, 2016 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auction 366, lot 14, and sold for 900 US dollars. Look at it by auctioneer. The highest average is Numismatic Ars Classica at 98 times the price of gold. And at the bottom we have Kunker at 27.66 times the price of gold. So our next low-end coin, probably going to be around 8,000 to 24,000 US dollars, so obviously a higher-end coin. And the next high-end will likely be 75,000 to 175,000 US dollars. Next coin up, RIC 31 with 3% of all sales. RIC 31 had a range of sales from 3.7 to 199.9 times the price of gold. The high was sold on April 10th, 2014 by Heritage. It was auction 3,032, lot 23,550, and sold for 55,000 US dollars. The low was sold on March 11th, 2013 by Kunker. It was auction 226, lot 745, and sold for 900 euros. Break it down by auctioneer. We see Roma has the highest average of 158.5, and the very bottom is Grun at 9.23, followed by Kunker at 12.4. So our next low-end coin probably going to be around 4,000 to 12,000 US dollars, and our next high-end coin is probably going to be, $75,000 to $150,000 again. Next coin we have is RIC7. It only accounts for 2.3% of all sales. So RIC7 had a range of sales from 15 to 245.8 times the market price of gold. The high was sold on January 4th, 2011 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auction Triton 14, lot 645, and sold for 70,000 US dollars. The low was sold on March 22nd, 2017 by Bertolami. It was auction 29, lot 424, and sold for 3,100 Great British pounds. We break it out by auctioneer. Our highest average auctioneer was Classical Numismatic Group at 146.4, and our lowest was Bertolami at 15.04, followed by Towler at 15.64. Next low-end coin, probably going to be around 12,000 to 16,000 US dollars, with our next high-end coin going to be all the way up at 120 to 195,000 US dollars. Next coin up we have is RIC9, also with 2.3% of all sales. RIC9 had a range of sales of 10.6 all the way to 180.7 times the price of gold. The high was sold on September 29th, 2016 by Roma. It was auction 12, lot 653, and sold for 38,000 Great British pounds. The low was sold on January 13th, 2020 by Heritage. It was auction 3,081, lot 30,175, and sold for 3,400 US dollars. The highest average auctioneer was Roma at 180.7, and we find ourselves all the way at the bottom with Syncona at 15.9, followed by Bertolami at 16.4 and Heritage at 24. So next low-end coin probably going to be around 8,000 to 16,000 US dollars, with the next high-end likely being around 40,000 to 80,000 US dollars. Next coin up is RIC 46, also once again with 2.3% of all sales. So RIC 46 had a range of sales of 4 to 107.8 times the price of gold. The high was sold on March 21st, 2007 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 38, lot 22, and sold for 18,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on January 13th, 2016 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auction 366, lot 15, and sold for 900 US dollars. Highest average auctioneer was Numismatic Ars Classica at 72.7 times the price of gold. And at the bottom we have Heritage at 11.46 times the price of gold, followed by Kunker at 13.47. So our next low-end coin probably going to be in the range of 5,000 to 10,000 US dollars, and our next high-end is likely going to range 40,000 to 80,000 US dollars. Our next coin up is RIC 51 with 1.6% of all sales. So RIC 51 had a range of sales of 4.9 to 98.3 times the market price of gold. The high was sold on August 25th, 2022. That was by Heritage. It was auction 3,101, lot 32,108, and sold for 36,000 US dollars. The low was sold on April 6th, 2016 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction Q, lot 1,683, and sold for 750 Swiss francs. Break it out by auctioneer. Our highest average auctioneer is Heritage at 98.3, followed by Numismatic Ars Classica at 50. And at the bottom, we have Sontag at 9.1, followed by Numismatic Namen at 10.04. So our next low-end coin, probably going to be around the $6,000 to $12,000 range. And our next high-end is probably going to be around $30,000 to $60,000 US dollars. Next coin up is RIC 53 with 1.4% of all sales. So RIC 53 had a range of sales from 2.3 all the way up to 86 times the price of gold. So obviously this one's quite a bit lower than some of the ones we've seen. The high was sold on October 15th, 2022 by Aurei. It was auctioned 2022, lot 43, and sold for 30,000 euros. The low was sold on November 8th, 2022 by Baldwin. It was auction 108, lot 2, and sold for 700 Great British pounds. Breaking it out by auctioneer, we have at our top Aurei with their singular sale. So next up we have is Nachfolger at 33 times the price of gold. And way at the bottom we have Baldwin with their singular sale at 2.3, and then Classical Numismatic Group at 4.17. So next low-end coin for this is likely going to be 2,000 to 10,000 US dollars, and our next high-end coin is probably going to be 30,000 to 60,000 US dollars. Next coin up is RIC 63 with 1.3% of all sales. RIC 63 had a range of 2.8 to 32.8 times the market price of gold, which is very, very low if you have not been paying attention. The high was sold on May 9th, 2018 by Numismatic Ars Classica. It was auction 106, lot 893, and sold for 9,000 Swiss francs. The low was sold on January 23rd, 2008 by Classical Numismatic Group. It was auction 180, lot 168 rather, and sold for 1,100 euros. Our highest average auctioneer was Numismatic Ars Classica at 32.8, and the lowest average was Gorny and Mosh at 8.04. Our next low-end coin is probably going to be around the 2,000 to 6,000 US dollar range, with the next high-end likely being only up to, we're going to say 20,000 to 30,000 US dollars. Next coin up is RIC2 with 1.1% of all sales. The range of sales for RIC2 was 4.5 all the way up to 311.6 times the market price of gold. The high was sold on January 6, 2013 by Heritage. The high was sold on November 7th, 2016 by HD Rauch. It was auction 102, lot 35, and sold for 75,000 euros rather. The low was sold on January 6th, 2013 by Heritage. It was auction 3021, lot 21,525, and sold for 1,500 US dollars. Breaking out by auctioneer, our highest average auctioneer was HD Rauch at 163.5, with our low-end auctioneer being Heritage at 8.3, followed by Numismatic Namen at 14.6. Next low end coin probably going to sell for around 4,000 to 12,000 US dollars, with the next high end being around 40,000 all the way up to 160,000 US dollars. Now from this point on, we're going to be grouping them by sales. So next up we have is sales of 8 over this data period. So we have RIC 11, RIC 29, and RIC 36, as well as RIC 48. So we're going to take a gander at all of these. So looking at these 4 compared to each other by their sales year over year, RIC 11 had a range of sales of 17.2 all the way to 60.1 times the market price of gold. RIC 29 had a range of 9.1 all the way up to 70.9. RIC 36 had a range of 6.9 up to 149.8, and RIC 48 had a range of 4.3 all the way up to 119.6. So our highest sale was obviously RIC 36 with 149.7, but once again, for how rarer these are than some of them, kind of low valuations, so it seems, which obviously is kind of a trend I think you see in the previous videos if you have watched those. So next up, we have coins that only had 6 sales. That one would be RIC 44, RIC 61, and that is it. So RIC 44 and RIC 61 are each only have 4 sales, or 0.7% of all sales. So out of both of those, obviously you can see one is a little bit more valuable than the other, particularly RIC 44. RIC 61 is very low every single time, ranging from 3.63 all the way up to 23.72. And RIC 44 rather has the lowest of 20 times the price of gold all the way up to its high sale of 63.8. Both still very low. Next up is 0.6% of all sales, or 5 total sales. Only 2 are in this group, RIC 21 and RIC 59. RIC 21 had a range of sales of 17 all the way up to 67, whereas RIC 59 had a range of sales of 8.8 all the way up to 111. Nothing to really note here. Obviously, I think I'd say that not super consistent for RIC 59, but it does average a little bit higher than its counterpart here. And next up, we have 0.5% of all sales, or 4 total sales. Only one in this category, and it is RIC 57. So we'll take a nice little look at RIC 57 here. So RIC 57 had a range of 17.9 all the way up to 107.26 times the price of gold. As you can see, this one does have a little bit higher valuation, especially in the more recent years. Granted, we haven't seen one sell of this for 8 years, so it's been a little bit. Next up, we have 0.4% of all sales, or 3 total sales. In this, we have RIC 5 and RIC 19. So RIC 5 had a range of sales of 24.9 all the way up to 79.5, and 19 had a range of 21.83 up to its high sale of 108.16. RIC 19 has actually had a couple sell in the past year or two, but it's been still quite a while for RIC 5. Obviously only 3 sales, so not a whole bunch of data here. Next up, we have 0.2% of all sales, or only 2 sales. Only one in this, and it's RIC 3. So RIC 3, obviously only 2 sales, but we have 161 in 2002 and 180 times the price of gold in 1998. So we have gone a solid 22 years without seeing a single sale from this coin. And lastly, only one singular sale, our rarest coin on this list, is RIC 30. So RIC 30 had one sale in 2005. Obviously super rare coin, right? But only sold for 34 times the price of gold. Quite a bit lower than one might expect. So now we're going to take a look at a couple things here. Mostly we're going to take a look at all the different Roman imperial coinage and kind of where everything's valued. If we'll remember, our most common coins were RIC 80, 65, 76, and 73. So we can see here our most valuable coin on average was RIC 3. Makes a lot of sense. It only had 2 singular sales. So we can see RIC 80 right here at 43. We have RIC 82, another common one, at 49. 76 we have here at 31. So, some of the lowest ones we have are 63, 61, and 53, all of which aren't particularly, super common. All of those are not seemingly what I would consider to be rare. So definitely an interesting thing right there. If we go and see how many of each auctioneer is selling all of these coins. Obviously, I'm not going to break it down by each individual RIC. We have Numismatic Ars Classica and Classical Numismatic Group at the top. I'm going to actually filter by the date. So when we filter to just take things into account, 2012 and beyond, mostly because all the early data is really coming from Numismatic Ars Classica and Classical Numismatic Group. We do see things get a little more balanced with Numismatic Ars Classica still having the most sales, followed by Classical Numismatic Group, and then Kunker up there. So these 3 are selling for the most. We also have Heritage up here as well, and everyone else sells some, but obviously it's not quite as frequent. Some of these you could find rarely, and typically they're going to be the ones that are going to not cost as much. So Leo, you remember seeing them at the bottom of these a lot. They've only sold 25. So if we look at all of the coins with respect to what auctioneer is selling, our highest auctioneer was actually Palumbo at 185.5. I believe they actually only had 1 sale, but let me double check that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they only had 1 sale, so that definitely answers that question. Followed by New York sale at 102. Numismatic Genvensis, they usually sell pretty high-end coins at 97. And then finally Numismatic Ars Classica at the bottom, we have our low sellers down here in the 10 times gold range. Obviously, like I said, it depends upon what specific Roman imperial coinage there is, but this is a good list nonetheless to look at. So I think that wraps up today's video. Claudius had quite a few Aurei, but still not quite as much as some of the ones that are coming up. So the next video will be about Nero. I already have all the data all the way up to Antoninus Pius. I plan to get all the Aurei shown together as well. So once I get through every single Aurei that's been minted, I will eventually compile all the data and compare the emperors to themselves as well. And one of the interesting things of that is you can see how the weight of the coin changes over time, and you can see, some emperors minted a lot, some emperors did not mint a lot. So for instance, Caligula reigned for 4 years and yet minted what seems to be less than Galba. If you're saying the minted rate is close to the same rate that's selling today comparatively. But nonetheless, interesting things to look at. I'll see you guys in the next one.